Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. I thought I'd just go for a quick rundown on what I did to the chassis for Bendigo to get it to perform so well as it did. Okay, the simple things are on the rear. If you look carefully here, underneath the actual inside screw on each of the points for the rear sway bar, basically is a 1/2 mil washer. All it does is, because the suspension usually sits at an angle on the ground, it keeps the sway bar as flat as possible to react properly instead of being loaded in any sort of way, shape or form. Secondly, the actual towers are cut down and put posts here. These posts are to stop people from ramming into the back of the car and caving in the rear end. It's like an internal bumper. The actual shock tower have dropped down to the second hole, not the first, not the third, but the second. Sway bar I've put on the third hole. It's not a sway bar, I do apologise. The actual shockers I put on the third hole, first, second, third from the bottom up. The actual tower I've cut a little bit short, but I've actually screwed the towers so they are on the third hole from the first hole from the bottom. So I've dropped them all the way down, but they actually go through second hole here. So I've actually dropped the tower quite a fair bit, and the actual the posts themselves as far down as possible, only because they suit this body a lot better when it's actually mounted very, very low. It is quite a low body, it's not high whatsoever, so I've mounted this one as low as possible on the car, so it works a lot better. And that's the Blitz EK4 Mark II, and it is a lower body. Alright, now for the front, which you can't see, but underneath the actual pickup points for the for the pivots, there is a 1/2 mil space underneath each of those screws. So it actually changes the roll center of the car. But it is actually something I put on this, and it does work on this car. I like the way it drives. I've tried it with and without, and I prefer to run those roll center spaces underneath the actual pivots. They are 1/2 mil, they are carbon. I do make them here in store, if you want to call it. Okay, now I've done this as standard on all the MTS cars because I don't like, personal preference, I do not like the single arm. So this is the old Express or racing for the T4 X-ray system here on the front of it. As long as possible, link is as long as possible here, and obviously down to a pickup point on the actual top deck. So what happens is it's got the least likelihood of actually being reefed backwards when you hit something. It has saved the car quite a fair few times. So I do recommend you do that with whatever you can actually pick up on the market, whether it be racing, whether it be the Express, new or old, whether it be the new X-ray Hillbilly set, which will actually work, and or Arc and or anything similar. But obviously just got to remember these are going to be 4.9 balls, and this will be whatever the actual configuration is from the supplier that you get this from. Okay, now for the actual, because this is running a brace onto the towers here, what I've done is this is a standard 4mm thick brace that goes across the front, plus spacers to bring this up as level as possible. So this brace stops these reefing backwards if you tend to hit, so they'll stop from this happening and bending your bulkhead. So that's a carbon brace. We've got those in stock. They'll suit the MTS or anything that's similar if you're going to run this type of system on the front. Works great, no problem at all. Configuration to run basically as many spaces here and there to give it as lower roll center as possible. I think that's the way I would go about it. Correct me if I'm wrong, please. Screws, stop the body rubbing on the tires. The shock is mounted 2mm forward on the bottom, on either bottom point here, but nothing on the top. So what it does is it actually gives the shock a bit of rake to it, not dead straight up and down. I tried up and down, I tried this I like. This setup here where it rakes the shock back a little bit seems to work for me. Could be different for other people, depending on how you like the car to drive. It does have very good progressive steering, and it does actually hook up a lot better for me in this type of configuration. The other part that I've changed is from 48 to 64 DPI to try and actually get a better finite FDR happening on this instead of being too coarse and being big jumps in between pinion and spur when you change it. It's a lot more finite, so you can tune it for the track a little bit easier. Drawback is they do strip a lot easier, especially on the front here. When you hit something, the motor moves forward, they'll strip. So just be wary of that. Be nice and careful. Front the fan on the motor is actually bolted right onto the bulkhead with a cap head, nice and tight. That sits out of the way from, you can use a plastic or an alloy fan, doesn't really matter, as long as you've got to remember that it clears this and it clears here, and that's bolted tight so it cannot move. This is a higher revving fan compared to the standard plastic one I had. Keeps the motor a lot cooler in hot conditions. So I definitely recommend, if you can, get a fast moving fan. The carbon holder will work, but it brings the fan further down and forward. So I ran it like this, so it comes back right over the motor as close as possible. Now, where you can't see, and I might have to explain it, the actual button head screws that actually hooked up the post, the actual bell crank to the post down here, well, I've piffed those off. I didn't like it because a 2.5mm driver wasn't going to give me enough perch to be able to tighten them up nicely. So I've run on both sides down the bottom here, I've run a M5 button head, M3 button head 5mm long, so M3 5mm button head with a bit of Loctite on both one side and the other side, and with a bit of force, not too much force, to actually make sure that it will not actually spin under any sort of load. That's worked really good. Plus also the 2mm driver gives it better leverage on to try and tighten it up. Same as the top here, took out the grub screw, put an M3 6 on here to make sure that it goes right to the actual pivot point there. And a little bit of Loctite, blue stuff, not red. Red, you'll never take it apart until you immerse it in heat, so that's a pain in the bum, don't do that. And so 6mm here, and tighten that up, so there's very little chance of this actually moving. The other thing that I'd like to emphasize is, if you can, try and actually get either X-ray or the MTS cups here, but try and actually get a slightly more aggressive turnbuckle. In other words, a turnbuckle with a more aggressive thread, so it bites into these a lot harder. The threads on these are fine, but they're not as, how would you call it, as aggressive when they bite in and cut into the plastic. So there is a chance, and it has happened to me a couple of times, where these have actually come out, actually tore out of the plastic. Not on this car, but on my Tourer. So they're fine. Clubbies, major competition, when you're going to have people running for sheep stations and you have an incident, they can pull out. So look, try and actually get a turnbuckle that's a lot more bitey than what these ones are. These ones are on the thread, so do that. Now, all the actual inserts for the droop, I've gotten away from using the M3 grub screws or set screws, whatever you're going to call them. I've got cap heads here with a 2.5mm driver, and on the rear I have M3 button heads, I think about 10mm long, straight through into that, so you got better perch on your driver into the head to turn it to actually set your droop and everything else. These plastic inserts are also cemented into the arm, so they cannot pop out. If you don't, there is a chance of them popping out. Now, they have a split. They're a split type system, so when they go in, at the factory they push them in from the top. Take them out, take the screw out, take them out, push them down, put them up the other way and push them in from the underside. There's less chance of them popping up if they're actually from the underside up. So the split in the plastic is on the top end on both of these. Hold them, put the screw in, it actually spreads it out and holds it from actually being popped out vertically. Don't worry about going down, it can't, because it's got to push against something. On the rear of mine, I've put 25mm of weight. It's helped it, definitely. If I could put the weight here, it'll be even better, but I've got to get something made up to do that to sit there. I tried it on the arms, big mistake. Unsprung weight, didn't work well. It was better just putting the weight here. So if you can get weight closer to the rear of the car, the better. 575 oil with gold springs. 575 oil with silver springs. Silvers are about a 3.0. The gold are about a 2.7, give or take here or there. Rear, what do you call these? The hubs for the rear wheels. I've got literally a 1/2 mil spacer underneath here. So instead of the wheels sitting so pronounced negative, it comes out by about 1/2 degree, 1 degree once you put them on. So they're a lot more flatter on the deck when you actually do put those spacers there. If you can get, these are the 2 mil ones, they work really good, no issues at all. But if you want a bit more stability, being a front engine, and most of the weight is concentrated all the way at the front, is get yourself the 3mm ones. They do give you more tow, it gives the car a lot more stability, so try that if you can. All right. Battery, nothing special. Servo, nothing special. I found that this particular servo arm is from a Bisma. It tends to run this a lot flatter instead of being too high or too low. So I like that arm. You can use any arm you like, really, but I find that to be really nice and very well made, and goes onto the spline of the TP servo really nice. So I tend to run that. Transponder I run down here. I don't try and drag it out to the front because there's just too much wiring already on the car. Wiring is a personal choice. There is no good or no bad way to put the wire onto the car. My fan wire runs underneath here with the cable tie here to hold it into place, and the cable tie here to hold it into place, so it stays away from the battery when you take it in and out. Comes over and into the actual fan. If I run it underneath, it'll actually rub on the actual lay shaft for the idler, so try and run it over. Wires on here, you can run them at the bottom here or right through the guts here. It makes no difference, it'll still do the same thing. As long as they don't rub on anything, that's fine. Sensor wire, 275 long, but I've actually twisted this to make it short, and also looks a lot nicer as well. So it's not just a cable, but it's twisted so it stays out of the way nicely and it presents itself on the car very well. I do have to run that underneath there because it'll be better running it on this side than here, only for the reason to stay away from the actual differential. Blah 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 blah. What else have I done? Oh yeah, packers at the front. You've got to run packers depending on the body that you run. You run as many as you can on the front here, but on this particular chassis there's also one on the inside which does actually help it butt up against there nice and tight, so there's no chance of the actual body doing this while it's driving. Alright, let's see. I think that's about it. Yeah, as I said, these people ask me why have I got these and not take it from the back, how it's got mounting on the back of the body, because I don't like it. I prefer to have the body mounted on top. These are the genuine ones, dropped in, a little pin there, does the job nicely. These just literally not hard up against the rear of the body, but they have a bit of perch there. And the main reason is if anyone tries to cave in onto the back, it'll bump you instead of folding the body underneath. So that's a nice little arrangement there that I've done for that car. On the underside, and as we go along, nothing special. Everything's got C8 holes to stop the screws coming through, especially these ones here. Stop them basically coming through, so it's a lot better fit, a lot better perch on the screw into the countersunk hole. There's less chance of it coming out. So that's the underside, as you can see, a bit scrapey there. That's only because I ran the ride height wrong. The ride height on this now is 5'8", 5'4", so it sits a little bit cocked up, but it works so much better and doesn't have that tendency for it to dip its front end and lift the back end of the car up as much. Works really, really good. A few people at Bendigo on the Classic saw the car running and said, wow, that thing's planted. That's really good. It's only the drive that made the difference, and I do need to get a lot more track time with this to get some more performance out of it. Thank you to Tim Boundy and Jason Millser, pardon me, for setting me right on the FDR. Made the car an absolute rocket in a straight line. It had pick up and go like nothing else. My defining factor on getting this around the track was me being able to drive it harder through the corners. That's confidence in the car. I just got to build that confidence up and change it a little bit so it has a little bit more turn in at low speed. Sorry, at medium speed. At low speed, it is fantastic. At high speed, it pushes, a little bit, and medium speed, medium trigger pushes a little bit. So I've got to get rid of that. So might drop the front to about 5.6 instead of 5.8 and see what happens there. Didn't have enough time to change that at the Classic. I was chasing, trying to get a result. I was happy that the car was good enough for me to try and hang on to first places, 2 first place finishes in qualifying, and still until I stuffed up. That's bad. It's bad when you hear one, and then all of a sudden you do a rollover for some reason or another. You clip the corner too tight, and then it's 4. It's depressing, but that's what happens when you do not pay attention to your driving. Last but not least, pickup point for these is on the outside hole. I tried it in the middle and at the inside. Varying results depending on the tracks that I ran, but it seems now to work a lot better with the shocks as high as possible, less aggressive steering and come into the corner. Arse end of the car is nice and planted now. It works really good, both in Adelaide and at Bitton. Next place to try will be, if I can, TFTR Templestowe and Geelong on their high grip indoor track, and see what I can get out of it. That's it. Any other questions? Give us a buzz. Tell me what you think. If you think you found something better, something worse, whatever it may be. I don't see a lot of people posting online about information on the car and what they've done to achieve certain results depending on the track. So it'd be good if we do get people coming up with suggestions apart from what I've got here, because I'm not the only person that can set these things up and make them work well. There are so many more others, but it'd be good to see a lot of you guys posting up. I'm happy to tag you in on my socials to spread the word, but the car is good. The car is really good. In the hands of a better driver than me, I dare say top 5 quite easily. In the hands of a has-been like me, top 10 if I stop stuffing around and crashing myself out. Not crashing into things, crashing myself out. All right, guys, take care. It's been a pleasure putting this together for you. I hope to hear from you. Good night and have a good evening. Take care. Bye-bye.